I see 9 attendees jumping into the BAC. Welcome, everybody. This is the Education Subcommittee meeting. I will be chairing this meeting today. So I wanted to wait a couple more minutes, maybe what, 2:35? Does that seem okay? How's everybody enjoying the first day of fall?
Finally.
It's really nice biking weather, I'll say that.
No complaints.
Did anyone go to Houston's parking day last week?
I wish I had the time to go. I wanted to, but I had to work. I was working. So I got off like around 4 or 5 o'clock. So missed out. I saw you were there, Jessica. How was it?
Before Jessica
So that
jumps
was
in.
fun.
Oh, is she there? Yeah, Jessica, I think everyone walked away learned a new skill from Jessica's setup. Everyone learned how to make a rug or a blanket there. So yeah, that was awesome.
So what was the idea behind parking day? I'm thinking of the word park, and then it was in parentheses ing. So is this kind of like maybe like a urban tactical urbanism type deal where you consider like parking space as something another space? I'm guessing.
Did David want to take a lead on that one?
Sure. Yeah. So the idea is that any of our transportation infrastructure can be different things. Just because it was a parking space at 8 in the morning, we showed that it could be spaces for crafts and for social gathering and for games and socializing at different times with just a little bit of work. So it kind of opens the mind that we're not stuck in one thing forever, and that it's completely based on our decisions and our control.
I really like that idea. When's the next one?
So it's an annual event around the world. We take that idea and we do other things like the pop-up bike lanes at different points where we say, it's a different type of lane at one point and becomes a bike lane in the middle of the day. I don't know that we'll do another parking day independently because we've got other things we're working on. But we had really great feedback and it was nice to get that article in the Chronicle too. Robin, I see you came off, you put on your camera. Did you want to say something about it? I see a big smile too.
Sorry, I'm having tech issues. Suffice it to say, loved the article, loved the event. I love that the city is taking an ownership role in parking day. And I can live if we don't have another parking day till next year because I know you're doing good work on the policy stuff in the meantime.
That's awesome. I hope I can make the next one. Parking, just to see. It reminds me of when there's I guess a local group that does technical urbanism in a sense, but I think they just kind of what I remember when we did the pop-up bike up lanes and Jessica painted on a crosswalk, not only like the traditional white lines, but like pictures and designs that kind of mark the bike crossing space, I guess. So I really like those ideas where it takes a more creative approach to like what infrastructure would look like, right? There's used to looking like.
So it's 2:35.
Mhm.
I think we've got everybody we will for now. Should we get going?
Fine with me. And then if people will jump in later on, that's good. Yeah. So I start off again, I guess, with the introduction. Welcome everybody. A couple of people did jump in. Good to see that. Hopefully more people jump in later. My name is Alejandro Perez. I'm a resident of the Northline community, and I guess really care about biking in the city. That I am a vice chair for this subcommittee meeting. I like to thank everybody for coming, and today we have a couple topics lined up later on in the presentation today, and Brandon is going to help guide me through this since this is my first time leading this. What's the next step?
All right, we can move forward in the presentation. All right, so I'll read off our mission, the BAC mission and vision. The mission is to advise and make recommendations to the commission and the director on issues related to bicycling in the city, including but not limited to amendments to the bike plan, bicycle safety and education, implementation of the bike plan, development of strategies for funding projects related to bicycling, and promoting public participation in bicycling. The vision is by 2027, the city of Houston will be a safer and more accessible, goal-level, bike-friendly city. So now I'll do a quick roll call of the members. So we'll start with Tom Thompson, absent. Vice Chair, Alejandro Perez.
That is I.
All right. Tracy Alexander. Zion Escobar. Adam J. Williams. Sandra Rodriguez. Christine Anthony Miller. Beth Martin. Lisa Graff. Trevor Reichman.
Here.
Jessica Wiggins. No, I saw her. Stepped away. Johanna Mahmoud. Nick Hellier. Judith Villarreal. Amar Mohite. Mike Van Dusen. Anna Ramirez Herta. Nikki Knight. Robin Holzer.
Holzer present.
All right. Vion McReynolds. All right. In our staff, we have David Fields.
Hello.
All right. Ian Halvacek. Present. Juvenal Robles. No. Any additional staff I may have missed? See Raina
It looks
Reed.
Yes.
like we just-
Raina Reed is here for representing Public Works. Ian and Lauren aren't able to be on today.
All right. Hey, Raina. Thanks for joining us.
It also looks like Commander Anthony Miller is on the call, but maybe called away.
Grab stuff. Okay. All right. See Anna Studio. All right. Any partners I may have missed? Recognize?
Hey, Joe Catrufo from Bike Houston here.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Hey, Brandon.
It's Matt DeLeon from TxDOT Traffic Safety.
Right. Matt, nice to meet you. All right. So roll call's done. Any members I may have missed or that may have jumped on?
So Dr. Vion McReynolds is not here, but I do want to give him a shout out. He became a national track champion cyclist by winning a scratch race in Trexlertown, Pennsylvania. So he's a national champion in Houston.
There you go. Congrats.
Congrats, Dr. V.
Yeah, nice.
That's awesome. Also in the chat, Jessica Wiggins is here, but is having network issues.
All right. I have her checked off. Thank you.
Hey, this is Christine. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, sorry, I had to join by audio. I don't know, my Teams wasn't connecting, but I'm here.
All right, gotcha. We got you in. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. All right, just moving through the front part of the Microsoft Teams meeting instructions. The agenda of the slide can be found on our website, houstonbikeplan.org/BAC, or you can join by phone 936-755-1521, ID 766-347-677 and pound. Reminder that to please remain on mute unless identified by the chair to speak. If you're connecting via phone, please mute and unmute by pressing *6. Here's our agenda, and Alejandra, we'll start with the chair report.
All right, chair report. So other than making comments on the previous meeting, I don't think I made the last one. If anyone has any comments to bring up or any topics that were discussed on that last meeting, feel free to comment in right now. So I'm not hearing any responses. Other than what we're doing right now, I believe we're making progress going ahead, what was going on. Jessica did mention earlier before our meeting actually started, we did have an event, parking day that David mentioned was a yearly event, re-envisioning like a parking space as something else, something else other than a parking space, which is a really great idea to kind of shift or not. It's a good idea to make the paradigm shift, quote unquote, by the words of Mayor Turner, of how we're looking at infrastructure and converting Houston into a more bike-friendly city. I missed out on that event, but if you want to bring those comments up again, Jessica, any like quick details other than, you mentioned you had the weaving, and a lot of people brought those, learned something, like Brendan mentioned, from that day.
Yeah, sure. So I think David said it really well. But it was a really great opportunity for everyone to reimagine what space might be if we didn't dedicate so much of it to cars. And the few people that I talked to, I think that we did it a little last minute, and I think it turned out really well. And I would, in the future, like to have it maybe somewhere where we can include some community members a little bit more intentionally. But I think it was a great way to get people together and start talking about space in a new way.
Good deal. Right. I agree. So I think something to think about, like I've noticed a lot recently with like a couple new bike shops and popping up. Some bike shops are stepping up, creating events now. So they're looking for partners, and people like to pick up a booth on one of their events. Edo Bikehood does a bike swap every month. So if anybody from the city of Houston Bike Plan wants to come by and set up a booth, that'd be pretty awesome. So we can like bring the news to the more to reach another audience, I guess, that's not so active online with engaging in meetings and stuff like that. Just quick pamphlet and what we're doing or where we're at in certain things. So I think that's an opportunity there. We can move into public comment. Brandon mentioned that he did have 2 comments with him. Were those like send-in comments, or were those people here?
No, these were 2 comments that was sent in via the email, and I can read them so they can just be a part of the record here. So one is from a Paul Derry, says, "Good morning. I have a question and comment regarding the slide presentation given on August 25th. The utility corridor route presented by Brian Smith is clearly an important element to the bicycle network plan. However, not shown is a connection to the College Court subdivision. Are there any plans to connect the future utility corridor route to this subdivision? I ask because there is an empty lot at Sunset and Community Street owned by Centerpoint, which currently holds a dog park and is directly on the Union Pacific right-of-way and the Centerpoint right-of-way. This seems a logical place to make such a connection. It would enhance it would enhance access to the corridor for nearly 300 homes in that neighborhood, both in Houston and in West University Place. As a resident, nothing would make me happier than if there was a way to get to Memorial Park without having to drive and use 610. It is so close, but may distance, ironically, by the same transportation mode that was supposed to get me there faster. Thanks, Paul. There's one. The second one that came in was from Beth Kwan. I think I messed up her name, but it says, hello, Bicycle Advisory Committee. I am searching for the group or person I would need to speak to help promote improvement of walkability and bikeability of my neighborhood in the greater surrounding area. We moved to Cypress in 2019 and are dismayed at the lack of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. There's plenty of room to add lanes and sidewalks, and they are completely separated from car traffic, and I would be interested in helping make things better. We live just southeast of the high school on Fry and Cypress, North Houston. We tried to walk from my house to the high school and was interested to see how difficult it is. It's less than 2 miles, but along Fry, in front of the school, there is no sidewalk. More pertinently, for us, we would be interested in being able to walk to restaurants across Fry, but there isn't a sidewalk to go through. There's no safe place to cross to the plaza from the neighborhood. In addition, my husband is an avid road cyclist and is very dangerous, currently going from where we live on the south side to 290 to the north side, where it's more open country. If there's someone I can talk to in the Cypress area, would you please let me know? Thank you very much for this assistance. Kind words, Beth. Brian left a comment, responded to this person. He said that he shared contact info with her about Harris County Engineering Department. The current bike plan does not cover Cypress and many parts of the ETJ. So those are the two public comments I have. Alejandro, was there anything from the Facebook group that may have came through?
Not that I've seen lately, but to address Beth's comments or inquiry, I am planning a so in my local neighborhood Northline community, I'm planning on conducting walkability and safety audits, and we will be having a training next week Wednesday. See if I can pull up the email real quick. I was looking at it earlier. So it's a walkability audit hosted or in collaboration with AARP. I'll pull up details. This is Wednesday 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. This is virtual also. I think I just forwarded the email to Houston Bikeways at Houston, Texas. I think that the email was just before the meeting. And if Beth reaches this, or if you can forward that information to Beth, that'll be great. I'll be happy to have her there. That way she can follow this tutorial and be able to do a walkability and safety audit to submit to 311 or whatever. I'm not sure if it's the city limits there or whatever the entity that's in charge of maintenance or infrastructure in that area. That's what I can offer, and I hope anybody that's interested to do these safety or walkability audit. It's a walkability audit, so that way we can report these to 311. So that way 311 has more updated intel of what areas are affected by deteriorating conditions, right? I hope you guys can come, and thank you. Thank you guys for the comments. Paul and Beth, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Jessica said in the chat she's interested in participating as well. So we'll throw her in the mix there.
Awesome.
Hey, this also seems like a good moment. So I guess something we missed in the earlier reporting, that City of Houston should take a little credit for the Sidewalk Summit you hosted yesterday. And an amazing series of panels. It was a veritable who's who of transportation planning and advocacy people in town doing good work on how to improve walkability in our region. I guess for Beth's purposes, her challenge is that she doesn't live in the city of Houston. And depending on where on Fry Road she's talking about, she might be Harris County Precinct 3 or Precinct 4. So from an elected perspective, she needs to talk to either Commissioner Cagle or Commissioner Ramsey. But it sounded like there was a recording made possibly of the Sidewalk Summit, and that could be a resource that we could link to from the Houston Bikeways website. It's not biking, but it's relevant. And that would help point people like Beth in the right direction in terms of getting connected, not only with Alejandra's training effort in the north side, but also like Chandra Weigel's work with AARP and some of the others who are working in this space.
Great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good mention of the Sidewalk Summit, because that recently happened, to highlight that. That way people can be more, I guess, like a keyword to look forward to when they're looking up stuff. Thanks, Robert.
You bet.
All right. If there are no more public comments, we can move forward with the agenda. Here we go. So publicizing ways to get out, or more information to get out the Lisa Torrey Smith Act. Alejandro, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Awesome deal, Brandon. Okay, so the Lisa Torrey Smith Act. As most of us are aware, the Texas legislation passed a law for pedestrians in crosswalks, pedestrians and cyclists, I believe, in sidewalks. Highlights here are listed. Striking and injuring a vulnerable user in a crosswalk is a misdemeanor. Striking and seriously injuring or killing a vulnerable user is a felony. It was signed into law on June 18 and effective September 1. What opportunities are available to outreach and spread the word around the new law? So this was a topic I was curious about, and kind of, I guess wanted to share more about, because there is this certain kind of, what do you say, belief that, many drivers here in Houston are not really. When was the last time they took a driving test and realized what new laws were driving? And my interest was to just spam this wherever we can, and how can we educate and get the most out of our efforts, right? Any ideas? Welcome. What I thought was probably, since this is a state law, I know Matt did some help previously with the parking spaces and printing out flyers earlier. It was last year, I think it was, or the year before, where we printed out mini flyers to give out and distribute over in the area where bike lanes, people wouldn't park in the bike lanes. So something along those lines. Of course, Matt willing to help out again, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, we can just brainstorm and see where we go with this.
Thank you. This is Matt here. Yes, the law came into effect. So on TxDOT's side, we're trying to figure out how to educate the community on this. So we are already working on a pedestrian campaign locally within our Houston Traffic Safety Coalition that involves Harris County, City, Houston, and Metro. So we think if we can make this one of the core pieces of our campaign, we would potentially get more funding from our people in TxDOT, as well as other agencies, because this is a new law. So whatever we're going to do in our pedestrian campaign, we will incorporate the new Lisa Torrey Smith Act. So definitely we're going to be covering it in the next few months, when a campaign should be coming out in 2022.
All
That's
right,
really-
so it's 2022. It's good to know that. What else can we do in the meantime? Any ideas from folks?
I've got some, I guess, 2 follow-up questions for Matt about the TxDOT effort. The first question is, you mentioned the Safety Coalition, and when I've attended, I've been really impressed with the participation from law enforcement agencies, that you've done a good job of recruiting a whole host of law enforcement agencies from all over the region. And so I guess I want to make sure we're not missing the opportunity to highlight it for law enforcement also. And I guess the same question to Commander Anthony Miller. Don't let me demote you or promote you unduly. So for the enforcement piece, that if it's not just the drivers who need to know that really this is accountable now, but the people who hold them accountable would be good. And then I guess the follow-on question for Matt is also, my impression was that the pedestrian safety campaigns in the past have been really aimed at people who walk. And I'm wondering what we can do to make sure that the messaging is really aimed at drivers and not just the people walking.
Thank you. And thank you for the compliment. Yes. So a lot of law enforcement agencies that are attending are sub-grantees of ours. So since, as we already know, the legislative session has been very political, very lengthy this time around. So a lot of us just kind of sat and waited till everything kind of finished off. So when the dust cleared, we had this new law. So unfortunately, we can't work too fast and pushing out a campaign all of a sudden. So the TxDOT statewide is working on something, but what we're here doing in Houston is we're working with Harris County, working with City of Houston to make a customized campaign that we include this in. And to address your point, yes. So the campaign we want to do that doesn't have, if we do it here locally, we have more control on what the message is versus just copying, pasting what TxDOT gives us from Austin. That's why we want to do it locally. And yes, we want to target the drivers as well as target the actual pedestrians with different messaging. And then working with Metro to have it at the bus stops as well. So we're trying to tackle the education component to the different people in the ecosystem of a pedestrian cycle. So we're already including all that. What we're doing now, though, is we're reviewing different pedestrian campaigns to see what works in other places, what we like, what's being done. And the committee's coming together, and then we're going to pick the campaign we want to go with next month. And then from there, working with our local agencies to get buy-in from each of our government agencies, and then develop this campaign. And then while everything is made, printed, and targeted out, we then launch it in 2022. We didn't want to rush this because we believe in quality over just pushing it out. That's why it's going to be 2022. And as we already know, November and December are kind of dead months because everyone's on vacation or holiday parties are just, everyone's everywhere. So no, we're incorporating everything you're saying now. So we really believe in making sure the message makes sense and it gets absorbed and gets retained. And we want to bring in more partners because if we have Metro, City, Houston, Harris County all pushing the same message, it's a lot better than all having competing messages for little campaigns. So that's why we're really trying to put quality and teamwork into this one.
Thank you.
And Robin, thank you. It was just a name change. I'm actually still captain. They just changed the name, so no promotion or demotion, but all good.
All right. You're still awesome. Can we just say the awesome
So
16 Anthony Miller?
Oh, but no, and here's the thing. Obviously, because it's a state law, there's different people do different stuff. I will say, and I'll speak for Joe, and he can add. But one of the things that we were going to do, just kind of very informally, organically, now that I'm actually at the recruiting division, I was going to use this opportunity to not only we do kind of short videos for not only recruitment on our platform, but we obviously tag HPD and we can tag, of course, planning in City of Houston, this and that. But Joe and I were going to hopefully, and Joe, hopefully, obviously with I'm not sure the funeral and obviously HPD has, suffered a loss. So there's some stuff going on. But if Joe and I are still able, we were going to meet at a crosswalk Friday, and I was going to have my social media team just do a real quick little video of us. And a lot of it is for this. It was just going to be, what is this? Kind of let Joe from the bike advocacy part, talk to us, and then spread that. It's more of an informal thing, but obviously social media, can kind of get out there. And so that was just one thing that we were going to do, on our end, and obviously HPD, as far as on our social media, we always try to let people know about, new laws and everything such as that. So that's just it's not super formal or anything, but it's just kind of a way to get out there, show collaboration between kind of the enforcement and the bike world. And that was just one small thing that we were going to do. So.
That is awesome. Yeah, hopefully I can. Well, Friday, what time? Else maybe I can just swing by and look at y'all work. Hopefully, give y'all pressure.
We're gonna be somewhere downtown, maybe around Discovery Green. Just gonna meet at 8:30. Like I said, it's I think my bike guys picked out a good place that would be kind of visible. I want to say Austin McKinney, somewhere around there, which would, I think that's, I'm talking right. But again, I've been on vacation and then all this stuff happens. So anyway, but it's, but yeah, just kind of looking, looking to do something at that and talk, and again, we can talk about bike safety as well, but I'm going to use that platform, kind of the, recruiting the Commander's Corner videos to get the message out there. And this is something that, that we do and care about a community, this and that. And then also, can put it on our recruiting platform that, hey, if you want to be a bike officer, come on. And, we have that too. So anyway, to me, it's a win-win. And, but that's what we're doing. So.
This is Tracy Alexander. I thought I heard someone say something about social media, and there's many cycling clubs in Houston that I think we could get this out to. We have Facebook pages and websites and things like that. So that might be another vehicle that you can get this out to through.
Oh, yes, that's very important, Tracy. Social media is super huge these days. I know I join as many bicycle groups in Houston as I can, just to see what people post, and maybe that's where I pull up some public comments every now and then when I'm scrolling through these group pages talking about, oh, this intersection is bad, or whatever, all the topic there about bikes and running around town. Just that's the way I keep my ear around the streets. But yeah, that's right. All these bike groups and having something like what you guys are doing, Commander Anthony and Joe, that's really, really good. I'm really happy to hear that.
Absolutely. I can shoot the back, or I can shoot, Brian, the when it would, I guess, premiere, when we post it, and obviously we would tag Joe, and Joe can of course spread it around. But that way, y'all, if y'all know that it's out, y'all can go to HPD Career, our Twitter, whatever, and then retweet it with whatever comments and further connections, and we just spread it from there, which is the point. So yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So Brandon, I'm on my phone. I can't really see the hands unless I see them pop up. I see Jessica just popped up her hand. You want to go ahead, Jessica?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Trevor had his hand up before me. So Trevor, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the wording as far as a user in a crosswalk. How does that apply to if a cyclist were to be hit who hadn't dismounted their bicycle? How does that work with this current law? Does anyone know?
Well, I think
so. My understanding, the law, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the law was written because there really was, unfortunately, the law that was such the conundrum. It was always, if you were a walker, or this or that, or you expected a cyclist to dismount or anything. And so, but this really, it just changes, is that if you again have the right of way understand that there is still signaling, and if there is going against, you still have to, have that. So, I'm not going to get the light, obviously if someone else has a red light and you think, oh, it's a crosswalk and I'm going to go. No, you still have to have, kind of that right of way. But whether or not you are rolling, riding, walking, skipping, whatever, it's the protection. It's the vulnerable road user with that, in that crosswalk, with that right of way, that is, you have the right, that you have the protection. You have, you're protected by the law. So it gives that knowledge, and then also obviously the enforcement ability. And then if there was any, if you want to call it like an at fault, if you were trying to figure out fault in an accident, then that would do that. But it does protect any vulnerable user, whether, again, you got wheels, cycling, walking your bike, riding your bike, walking, skipping, whatever. So.
Okay, that's an important clarification. Thank you.
I guess while we're here, I know, and Jessica had her hand up. Thank you, Jessica. Just slight backstory in case anyone hasn't heard it. Lisa Torrey Smith was a real live human down in Fort Bend County who was struck and killed while walking her kid to school. And part of the challenge was the driver was stopped, but the district attorney wanted to press charges, and the way Texas statutes were written before September 1st, there wasn't something to charge the driver with. And so this act was authored by the Fort Bend County District Attorney to plug up that loophole in our statute to make sure that when drivers mess up and hurt people in crosswalks, that there's a way to hold them accountable.
And just to kind of piggyback on this, might be an unpopular opinion, but to me, I don't like this messaging. I think that this is, I don't know that the issue is that people don't know that if you hit a person and injure them, that something has been done that is wrong. I think like the issue we're having is people hit people and drive away. And I don't know that reinforcing the idea that it is somehow against the law is going to help that. Like, I don't know that this is the message that we want to be, singularly really focusing on, that if you hit somebody in a crosswalk, you're in trouble. Because even just like Robin said, like, even, Lisa Torrey Smith was hit and killed, and the police showed up because obviously something had happened that was, unfortunate and very wrong. But the thought isn't that that someone wasn't going to be in trouble. The problem was that we didn't have a law to kind of validate our feelings that there was an issue awry. So I don't know that reinforcing the idea that you're in trouble if you hit someone is the message that we want to lead with.
I like that a lot.
Well, that, just from us, I'm not sure what Joe's going to say, but this was simply more, that was not going to be my message at all. This to me needs to be an awareness of the protection at a crosswalk. And so more of an awareness that when you're driving, you absolutely have to take this, into consideration, vulnerable road users. And particularly when you have that protection of a crosswalk, it's also, to me, also education for any vulnerable road user. We've also got to use these crosswalks, because unfortunately, when I do these fatality reports, and we see this, it is not victim blaming or anything, but when you're dealing with, a lot of times we have people that are not crossing at these protected areas, and it's sad. So there's education on both sides, right? Let's use these crosswalks. Let's use them as they're designated, because that's the safety measure. And then as drivers, let's make sure that when we are around crosswalks, that everyone has that right. I don't care if you're on a scooter. I don't care if you're on a bike. I don't care if you're walking. That crosswalk is for that vulnerable road user. And that to me was going to be more of what I was going to do, and then whatever Joe wanted to say. So anyway.
What I would, in a perfect world, really like is for us to really, or someone or this committee take kind of a lead role in crafting that message. Because, you know, I don't necessarily agree with the message of, you know, everyone should be using the crosswalk. Really, a crosswalk needs to be every 300 feet. And the reason people aren't crossing at the crosswalk is because they're every 900 feet. Or they're not put in the right location.
And also, I mean, I'm okay. Here I'm going to go on public record, but I'm explicitly teaching my almost 10-year-olds not to cross at signalized intersections, because as long as Texas still thinks that right turn on red is a great idea, and that my kid in a crosswalk has to contend with a driver who's looking left to see whether there's a gap in traffic while turning right across the crosswalk, there's more conflicts for them to sort out. But I like your point about maybe a more useful message is to remind drivers that cars aren't the only people they've got to watch for, and that when you're turning at an intersection, whether you're going left or going right, you've got to check for the vulnerable road users who might also be in your path. I like that a lot.
So, okay. Yeah, I agree with Jessica. I mean, I'm happy this law passed because it's legally giving us more protection. And like Commander Anthony mentioned, it's like it's eliminating a loophole. So that's good, right? And where Jessica's coming from is probably like re-emphasizing what a crosswalk is, because a lot of drivers probably do not know to yield to pedestrians. If they see a pedestrian or a cyclist coming on, you know, approaching a crosswalk, that drivers are supposed to stop and yield to these people. That's one of the issues that we have in the city is that people, I don't think, really know that law. And starting with that and then making a follow-up, by the way, you know, if you don't stop or whatever, like, you know, there are consequences, I guess, instead of saying you're going to be found guilty and, you know, you're going to be a felony or a misdemeanor. I think just ending it with just consequences, and then do it like, you know, when pharmacies promote commercials, like do it in a fast speed, like if you get hit or if you hit somebody in a crosswalk, then da 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 da, you know, you misdemeanor for all this and felony for all this, but in a fast voice.
To just
Well, I just want to be
recap,
very clear. What this was more of this was really more a kind of a question to Joe as a bike advocacy. This is simply just a platform. This is not one voice, one message, anything such as that. This is one platform. So, hey, Joe, you're from Bike Houston. Let's talk about this new bill, because there's a lot of education. So really kind of giving the floor on that, not getting into, it's not going to be very heavy. It's not going to be, it's also not going to be very long. And so this is one message, one reminder, and various things are, you know, going to go. So that was it. So sorry if it seemed to indicate doing this or that and not arguing various things. I'm just saying that this is the law. This is just one of the messages that right now, what we want to get out, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. But it's you know, it's not bad to mention, you know, when we're coming across like this, or maybe coming something into more coming something like making another video with more detail, what to consider, right?
I just wanted to say to Commander Anthony Miller, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I love that you're sharing your platform with Joe to just get the word out. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any thoughts or angles, Joe? Are you still on?
I think we might have lost Joe. Not permanently. I don't think so. Just for this call.
Oh no. Okay. But yeah, yeah, like Robin said, this is awesome. I'm good to hear that. It really surprised me to hear it, but surprised me in a good way. Like, yeah, that's awesome, you know, that you guys are working on something for Friday. And if I can get off work early, I'll be riding my bike around downtown. Hopefully, I'll see y'all. Does anyone else have any comments or ideas? All right. So awesome. It's good to hear that this once again, this is awesome that this law and gives us these protections now as vulnerable road users, and how we're going to approach this, and the input that Jessica brought up. It's valuable to consider, and how we, because how I guess local government and advocates relay messages is important. And we don't want to guilt people, because if they know, then like, okay, well, maybe they'll pay attention, or maybe they'll just run away, you know, because now they know that they're in trouble. So kind of like navigating that is pretty, you know, I guess it takes thought. It takes thought. And this is good. This is recorded, so if anybody wants to come back to this and reevaluate it, it'd be great. Brandon is for our next. We had a guest speaker for
Yes.
what was the? Is she in?
Yeah, she's actually in.
Cool.
Are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, there she is. Yes. So, I have the slides up here, and you just let me know. Next slides. Just let me know when you're ready.
Sure. I think I'm ready now. Apologize that I'm just popping into the meeting. I actually had to go pick up my kiddo from school. I'm Karaoney. I'm with the City of Houston Health Department. I'm not sure if you guys already introduced me or not. I'm a senior staff analyst at the health department. I've been there for about 8 years. I was the division manager for the chronic disease health education and wellness division, and I transitioned to part-time after having my second kid, and I've since had a third kid. And all three of them are here with me in the background today. So if you hear fun little voices or screaming, etc., please pardon me and as we move forward. And thank you for letting me present to you guys today. Okay,
I'm glad you can make
they
it.
asked me to. Thank you, I appreciate it. So the Houston Health Department partnered with the Planning Department in 2019 to do a project called the Choices Learning Collaborative. And Jennifer Oslin was actually one of the key partners in that project, and then she has since introduced us to David and to Brian. So we thought we could share some of this information and see if it was of interest to you guys. So if you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide. Just give you, this is the overview of the presentation, and I'm sorry, I am going to talk a little fast, and I'm happy to answer questions throughout or afterwards, but because I feel like I'm on a finite timeline of when my kids may decide they need me, I'm going to talk a little fast. So anyway, this is just an overview of the presentation today. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. This is just to let you know what the Choices Project is. Choices stands for Childhood Obesity Intervention Cost Effectiveness Study. And it's a study of the Prevention Research Center on Nutrition and Physical Activity, which is a CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control funded research center out of the Harvard School of Public Health. The Choices Project helps to identify which prevention policies and programs will help more kids achieve and maintain healthy weight and deliver the best results for the dollars invested by using a cost effectiveness analysis to compare the costs and outcomes of different policies and programs, promoting improved nutrition or increased physical activity over 10 years. Wow, that was a lot, right? basically, it's a model, a computerized model that you do a lot of inputs into. And then it has, so you do local inputs into it, local data and other parameters. And then it has a lot of the, or most of the research or evidence-based inputs already into it. And then it helps to calculate what the cost, savings, and then some obesity, other obesity related outcomes would be for a number of interventions. So basically it has a big, huge emphasis on evidence. It's trying to figure out the best value for your money. It's trying to tell us if something's going to cost money, or if it's going to save us money. And through this project, we have learned that most things that are beneficial for obesity prevention and improved nutrition for children, you're actually going to see some of those do cost money. There's not very many things that we can implement that will improve population health that has an actual return on investment or a healthcare cost savings. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay for health. It just means that it does cost money. All right, so if you want to go to the next slide. There you go, thank you. The goals of Voices project, and I'll read through this really quickly, is to create a shared understanding of the project's projected impacts on safe routes to school and supplemental nutrition, incentive programs on population reach, population health, healthcare cost savings, and potential impact on health disparities, provide justification for public investment in prevention, and provide evidence to support public health strategies that may not be cost savings, as I just mentioned, but are key to impacting childhood obesity. And those were our specific goals for our Houston project. And pardon me for 1 second. If I didn't mention that I have 3 kids, one of them is a 15-month-old that is running as fast as her older siblings are. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide.
Kara, you're in a safe place here. We're all very supportive. So whatever you need, no worries at all.
Well, this is why I did not choose to opt in to turn my video on today, because you would see me literally as I'm talking to you about obesity prevention and things like that, running after children. So just quickly, this is just a map of the different cities across the country that have been a part of the Choices project. They choose between like 3 and 5 partner cities every year. So we did apply for this project, and again, we were selected. It was at the end of 2018. We worked on the project through 2019, and we actually meant to start sharing and disseminating results in 2020, but COVID hit, as you all know, and the Houston Health Department is the primary response agency for the city of Houston. So many of us have been deployed and activated for COVID activities, and much of our chronic disease data had to be put on hold. Okay, next slide. You may have heard me say in the goals of for our Houston-based project, you heard me talk about Safe Routes to School and SNAP HIP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition and Assistance Program, Healthy Incentives Program, and Pilot. So we actually did look at 2 interventions in the city of Houston, that SNAP HIP pilot, and then Safe Routes to School. And then obviously today, I will be talking to you guys about Safe Routes to School. We selected these strategies because it just made sense for us as a health department in the city of Houston. Safe Routes to School, while it's not specifically mentioned in the Community Health Improvement Plan, a plan that the public and the health department work on together to make goals for improving the community's health, active transportation opportunities and increasing those opportunities is an objective within that. So it obviously fits really well. And then we've had a pretty good partnership with the Houston, with the planning department over the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years. And so it seemed like a really good strategy for us to look at, and we hope that it could be, a win for the health department, but a win for the planning department in the city as well. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to talk to you on that slide. I have to explain, guys. I know some audiences we do. If you do have questions about that, I can definitely go back to that. For this particular project, we did narrow the focus to only schools within the Houston Independent School District that have good grades K through 8. So we're looking at elementary schools. And the scope of the project was to look at children ages 5 to 14. And we made that decision to focus only on HISD schools for a number of reasons, but we worked through the process to kind of narrow it down. Originally, we thought maybe all of Harris County and then all of the schools in the city of Houston. But as you all know, there are many, many, many schools in the city, city proper, including charter schools, private schools, etc. And so at the end of the day, all of our partners decided that it made more sense data-wise to just look at HISD. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. These are just some of that background health justification reasons as to why we thought, or why we do focus on activity, and why we chose Safe Routes to School and physical activity particular project. 74% of adults are overweight and obese. That's in Houston. Houston is home to over 2 million children, so this could be a pretty impactful project. 34% of those 2 million children are, or at least the ones that are age 12 and over, are overweight and obese. 50% of children in Harris County are in low-income households. You can see that there's quite a lot of reason or rationale why we would look at a physical activity and an obesity prevention strategy for children in the city of Houston. All right, if you want to go to the next slide. Again, just a little more rationale for why physical activity, and this is just some of the health facts for the health effects for physical activity. Interventions that are successful in increasing physical activity have shown that when children are active, they focus more, they think more clearly, react to stress more calmly, and have better quality sleep. Being the parent of 3 small children, quality sleep is maybe more important to me than obesity prevention at the moment, but I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. And then, of course, we know higher amounts of physical activity are also associated with better health outcomes for children, like reducing excess body weight, which is really that focus of the health department, improving bone health, cardiorespiratory, and muscular fitness. All right, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. You guys already know this. Safe Routes to School is a national program. Sorry about that. We're super excited to show mommy something. Safe Routes to School, you guys again know, evidence-based program, national program that encourages kids in elementary and middle school to walk or bike to school. We actually live just over a mile and a half from the school that my oldest is in kindergarten, so we drive about halfway there, park and walk. So we're kind of doing Safe Routes to School, kind of not. Maybe when it gets a little bit cooler, we'll attempt the full distance, but we're not quite there yet. That my school does have pretty good infrastructure around it, though. So the model so you guys know that Safe Routes to School, it's a comprehensive model. It's based on those 6 E's of education, encouragement, enforcement, engineering, evaluation, and equity. You also know that Safe Routes to School can sometimes be piecemealed, in that, some things are better than no things, right? But I bring this up to say that for this model and for the outcomes that you'll see related to obesity prevention numbers and BMI, for example, those relied on a comprehensive approach. And so if we did just if we didn't do a comprehensive approach in all of HISD, and then we didn't see these same outcomes, then that's why you would see the differences. It's because the model assumes that you're doing a comprehensive approach for implementation. All right, if you want to go to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, so this is some of the partners that we had particularly for the Choices project. And we may have had other partners. And if you were a partner and your name is not on the screen, I certainly do apologize for that. Throughout the Choices project, again, it was about a year-long project. We had 2 major stakeholder meetings where everybody came back when we used to be able to and learn, and the Choices team from Harvard actually came down and visited us during that time. We got lots of information about evidence-based best practices, about the Choices model, etc. And then we went through a lot of dialogue and discussion about what types of parameters to set to make this as specific or meaningful to Houston as possible. So these were just some of the partners that attended those 2 meetings with us, and that we had either lots and lots of email exchange with, or lots of phone calls with as well, so because they provided us with much of the data for the projects so that we could input that into the model. That data included like crash data, school-based data, like anything ranging from the number of kids at the school to how many were currently walkers to, again, crash data, pedestrian data, all sorts of things that they asked for that we really relied on those partners to be able to help us to input. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Awesome. These are just some of the things that went into our assumptions. Safe Routes to School would be implemented as part of Houston's Vision Zero initiative. So it would be emphasizing the importance of comprehensive approach on safety to get more kids and families active and walking or biking to school. We assumed, or we put into the model, so the model, and I'll talk about this a little bit in a few minutes, but the model does, we put a lot of cost analysis into the model, right? Because it's giving you cost outcomes. So then you have to think about all the cost inputs to it. We assumed that there would be a city level coordinator who would oversee and manage implementation of Safe Routes to School. That a city Safe Routes to School committee would activities and projects for that. We would be, the model solely focuses on implementation within Houston, within HISD versus a broader network of schools. All right, next. Some context, and this were all things that came from our partners. Was, eliminating a backlog of sidewalk repair and missing link requests, updating development rules to encourage walkable places, implementing the Houston Bike Plan, addressing Houston's most dangerous intersections, and then adopting Vision Zero, and developing that Vision Zero action plan. Again, this was more of the reason for us to focus on this. We had kind of decided we would do Safe Routes to School. We had gathered these partners around the table, and then they gave us these additional context and information as to why this would be a valid strategy for us to look at. Next. Let's see. So when we think about who would benefit from this strategy, the model is the Choices model is focused on children in elementary and middle school, so 5 to 14 years old. We again looked at HISD elementary and middle school children. We're assuming on average, and so I'm sorry, and I didn't get a chance to get this updated. These were actually some of the preliminary results that we had shared, and I think there are some changes to that. but on average with our preliminary results, and I don't think this number changed a whole lot, it was about 90,000 per school is what the what we costed in for the model, and then that we would fund a total of 188 schools in HISD. So evidence from a multi-state evaluation in a peer-reviewed research of the Routes to School program has found an absolute increase of 5.5 percentage points on average over a 5-year period. So of a mode shift, right? So we're assuming that in the first year of implementation of a comprehensive Safe Routes to School program at a school, that the research has shown us that 5.5% of the students would shift to active transportation from passive to active. So, I mean, again, I'm sorry if I'm glossing over some of this, but so 5.5% of folks that are either using the bus or taking a car to school would then switch to walking or biking over a 5-year period. So, and I bring that up because A, that's awesome, right? And then B, is that was also an assumption that was placed into the model. So when you see some of the outcomes or the results, that's just something to consider, is that we assume that there would be at least a 5% mode shift. And then obviously there could be more or less, and maybe even specific to the individual schools. There's some uncertainty that's built into the model about this. The Choices team runs like 1,000 iterations of the virtual population through the model, and that range turns out to be between over 1% of kids to almost 10%, over 95% of those 1,000 different iterations that they run. So again, you can see that there's some uncertainty in that. If you want to go to the next slide. My slide is the same as yours. So the model, I know I've said this a dozen times already. The model focuses on kids grades K through 8. And this is just this slide, again, if these aren't the exact numbers, but this was an easy slide for me to pull from a previous presentation. This is just to give you an example of how we looked at how many people would, or how the model actually looks at how many would be impacted on this. So based on national data, we're assuming that 95% of schools will be eligible, and that 5% of schools may have school-wide busing due to their population or hazard busing. So we predicted in the first year of the model around 162,000 kids would be attending the schools with safer transportation environments. And again, the model has uncertainty in it, but it's ran like 1,000 different times. Okay. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to tell you about that. So that, again, I was just talking a little bit about that 5% assumption, or that 5.5% assumption. So you can see how the reach is narrowed, how it plays into the model. So I think I actually did update the numbers in here. I apologize. Like 170,000 kids are in K through 8 at HISD. We assume that all of those, kids would be eligible, and then you kind of narrow it down to the 95%, and then down to the 5.5%. So you're looking at 9,600 kids with these numbers, knowing that, again, these numbers are examples, and that they did change a little bit. Sorry, running after my 1-year-old again. If you want to go to the next slide. Let's see what you guys have. Okay, so I mentioned that the model does incorporate cost inputs into the model. So these are just examples. This is not a comprehensive list. If you are interested in the comprehensive information that went into this, I'm definitely happy to share the final report that was put together. But just to give you guys an idea of what we were looking at, some things included like a coordinator's time, planning infrastructure programmatic activities, meeting time, time to review and approve proposals. I think I noted earlier that it looked like schools were about 93,000 per school, and these are just again some of the things that went into that cost. Let me think. Let me look through my notes really quick to make sure I don't miss anything that I think would be really important for you guys to hear. So over a 10-year period, and the model is a 10-year model, you get annual results and then cumulative results over a 10-year period. It's set at it, and its cost over that 10-year period was about $20 million. But then the savings to the family and to the society from reduced vehicle use and transportation shifts was about $29 million. So, but that said, it looks really nice, right? That there's actually cost savings this project. However, a lot of those cost savings necessarily like cash in your pocket. So we're looking at for all of the strategies that they look at. They look at actual cost savings, so things that cost real money, and then they look at things that are not necessarily money, but they monetize it. So when you think about somebody's time, like for example, you guys are meeting today and you're not getting paid to meet today, I don't think, but your time is valuable, and so the model incorporates that type of cost into it. And so when you look at the numbers, you have to keep that in mind as well. If you want to go to the next slide. This is just another example, and I think this may have been one of the actual few examples that the model showed of actual like cash in your pocket cost savings. So, and this is for the end user, which is great, not necessarily for like the city or the implementer of the product, but for those parents that do shift transportation modes, then they're saving funds on their mileage vehicle operation, and then of course environmental impact. So not to discount that, but that is one of the few like actual cash in your pocket savings that the model showed. Okay, and if you want to go to the next slide. This is just, again, another example from the model that I wanted to share so you could kind of see some of the things that it showed, or some of the things that it considered. So the Safe to School effect, they can increase proportion of children taking active transit to school, obviously. And then those kids that do shift, remember we said about 5.5% of the kids would shift modes of transportation. They would see an increase of almost 10 minutes or 9.5 minutes of physical activity per day. As I was about to call you guys health advocates, but I know you are, because you're looking at health and walking and biking. We know that kids need about an average of 60 minutes of physical activity a day. So this could easily be 10 minutes of their physical activity that doesn't have to be, that is just it's just from walking or biking to school and back every day. So we think that's pretty significant in the health world. And then 10 minutes of physical activity does have some impact, while small, it does have some impact on BMI reduction as well. So this was a pretty neat outcome that we thought came from the model. Okay, next slide. I'm going to advance the slide. Thank you. Okay, and I apologize. This is where I started adding some more information to this, and then I forgot to send it to Brandon. So I had inserted a fuller table just so you guys could see a lot of the different examples of the outcomes, because I thought you guys might be a little more interested in those than some of our audiences have been. So I apologize that I did not send that slide to Brandon, but I'm happy to resend him just this slide so he could share that with you guys. And it's just a table of, there's probably 10 or 15 different outcomes that the model could tell you. So like the 10-year intervention to treat, like the reach, 10-year benefiting reach, the reach within the first year versus over 10-year period, like the total implementation cost that was calculated, and the list goes on. And then there's some things about obesity prevention, BMI, mean effect on BMI, et cetera, that are pretty interesting to look at. And I'm happy for Brandon to share my contact information. So again, as I mentioned, we have a final report that I'm definitely happy to share with you all if you have more interest in looking through this data. So stay on that slide for just a few more minutes, and I will kind of talk about some of the outcomes or the highlights of what the model says that we could see as outcomes. So over 276,000 children could enjoy safer transportation options. So that's a big win. That could be a big win for us if we were to be able to implement this. Again, that's assuming that all 188, I believe was the number of schools, would be able to implement safe routes to school. 15,500 children would actually either bike or start walking or biking to school with that mode shift. They would get an extra 48 minutes of physical activity per week, so almost a day's worth of their recommended physical activity. Not that physical activity actually works like that, but it's a good analogy. 70% of cost savings would go to the family who drive less in their time, etc. And one of the outcomes they saw in the model is that families would save an average about $1,000 over 10 years. And then the big one that would probably be important to you guys is that reduce the injury rate of school-age pedestrians and cyclists by 44%. And again, that's over at that 10-year period. Let's see. All right, if you want to go ahead and change slides. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to share with you guys on that one. So this is an example that the infographic on the right of this slide. This is some infographics that Harvard put together for us, and I will share this with Brandon so that he can send it to you guys. So the choices. So Jennifer Oslin and our team at the health department, and then the choices team at Harvard, we put together this, what we call an issue brief, and it's about a 2-page document, and it describes basically in 2 pages what I've gone over today, and then it has these 3 outcomes, and these are the 3 outcomes out of that table of outcomes that I apologize that I didn't insert into the presentation. These are some of the outcomes that we and then some of the other partners thought that we should highlight within this issue brief. And that we thought could be most compelling and useful, both as a health advocate or a safe routes to school active transportation advocate. And then just some of these talking points that safe routes, if they help children accumulate the recommended levels of physical activity, again, they get about 48 minutes of extra physical activity per week that they didn't even obviously translate to gains in obesity prevention. And then there's a small healthcare cost savings from this particular intervention. The strategy is cost savings due to cost realized by the families, and that is societal cost primarily, but still, it's important. And then obesity strategies do require investment to reduce obesity in childhood. So look, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That I think that a lot of, especially for those of us that work in government and in healthcare, there's always this question on return on investment. And And the thing is that many, and I said this before, many of the evidence-based strategies that actually show that they work towards reducing obesity, reducing weight, reducing BMI, or improving overall health, they cost money. So return on investment is usually not going to be $1. It's going to be a societal savings, or realized by the value of people's lives and quality of life, and not in the government's. You can't put $1 into investment and expect to get $2 back, and it just it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And I think that might be my last slide. I don't know if Deborah hopped on the call or not. Is Deborah on the meeting? I do want to just briefly mention Deborah, whether she's on the call or not. She is a senior health planner for our division. She's also an epidemiologist and key in a lot of the Choices projects. And then she was also key in helping to put together this presentation, which we've used at a couple of different meetings. So I just wanted to acknowledge Deborah. And if you guys, she's a great point of contact. You guys may be familiar with Deborah and some of our past activities. Went back when we had the bike rack program at the health department. Deborah was the lead for that program. And pre-COVID, back when we had a little bit more of an opportunity to work in the active transportation space, a lot of times Deborah was one of our representatives for that. So.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Thanks a lot.
Lots of questions?
I do have a few. It's all good. It's all good. So this is something I've been interested in for my neighborhood and my community. I'm in the Northline area. So yes, we do have low income level students. Majority of the community is low income, medium income. The schools in this area are not too far from, like, the streets are not too busy where fast cars would be an issue. And I believe I'm optimistic to believe that safe route to school in this area would really help, considering we have like lack of parks in our community. Like one of the statistics you mentioned in one of your slides, that having the lack of parks is kind of one of the issues in the city in general, but in our community it's a little bit more pronounced because of what we have available. That's why I've thought of safe route to school, bike to school. Robin had a similar interest as well with bike to school events and her school with her children. So I really want to plug into this, and I might reach out an email to you and see how we can coordinate. So there was a mention of a safe route to school committee. Has that been established yet, or is this in the planning phase?
So, yeah, let me and I think I saw David on the call, so David might can hop in and interject anytime. So, and David wasn't, I don't think he had started yet with the city when we actually went through this Choices project, when we were in the implementation phase of the project in and of itself. But if I didn't state this clearly, I apologize. But our Choices project was simply a model. So, and it's kind of weird, right? Because we don't ever model anything. I mean, we should, but we don't, right? So people say, hey, you guys need to do this. I'm sure planning and public works and you guys all can relate to this as well. But in the health department, usually it's like, hey, we're going to implement this. And you basically are building the plane while you're flying the plane, and landing it, everything at the same time. But this had zero implementation. So no actual infrastructure, no safe routes to school education, any of those activities that were considered in the model. So they were, like, I guess, theoretical. So this model was like just cost analysis. If we did this, these are the outcomes that we could anticipate. So the health department, again, kind of for some of the reasons that I went through in the slide, having that partnership with with the planning department, et cetera, is the reason that we chose to do this. So the Choices program has about 30 different evidence-based childhood obesity interventions that work in their model. And we selected through this project. Safe Routes to School kind of rose to the top because of some of the data that we shared, that I shared earlier, and then with our connection with the planning department, and some of our history in having some smaller active living projects, like we used to have the bike ride program through a grant that we had. The health department's been, was really instrumental in starting Sunday Streets. So usually, though, the health department's not going to be the lead organization on a lot of these active living projects. We would look to the planning department, and again, we made that assumption that it would kind of fit under Vision Zero. That maybe, I think it was even mentioned that you all might be a good group to become that Safe Routes to School lead as well. And I do see David's face. So David.
Yeah, this might be a good place for me to jump in. We really appreciate the work that was done even before we were having kind of the in-depth Vision Zero conversations. This was up and running. So because of all that work, initiate a citywide a city's Safe Routes to School pilot is in Vision Zero. And we are actually working on it right now. We partnered, led by Harris County Health, for a grant through MD Anderson. Be Well Acres Home is the name of the program. We received it. We are right now working with the team to identify 3 pilot schools in Acres Home to be the first cohort in a 2-year program. There'll be 3 years each, 3 schools each of 2 years. And so there'll be kind of a 2-pronged approach of programming with the schools, working with the parents and the teachers, surveys and actual programming and surveys. And then our side is going to be upgrading the infrastructure around the schools using the school's pedestrian funds and other things to match the Vision Zero high injury network. So we're taking care of both the programming and taking care of the safety aspect at the same time. If this works well, hopefully we can use it as the model to be expanding to more neighborhoods.
I see now. Awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear for Acres Homes being a pilot. I look forward to seeing updates, and I'm really, if there's anything I can do to help make it work, I volunteer as tribute.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we want to thank Kara for joining us today. We know the BAC is not technically just not specifically a walking committee, but there's so much overlap, and we really try to kind of squint when we look at definitions like that and say, is this a group that would be interested in helping us, think about things and expand the mission? So we try not to get too bogged down that it is not just biking, but really access in a safe way. So we appreciate taking some time on the agenda.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, like going back to the first part of the presentation, the vulnerable road user, right? So both of us, the cyclists and pedestrians, both use the roads, and we're the most vulnerable on the street. So it's kind of like tag team, like what's good for pedestrians is also benefits cyclists. And yeah, I support that.
Yeah, I'll just say a funny story about the health department. When we try to split hairs about different things, like have a diabetes specific meeting versus an obesity specific meeting, we'll plan these meetings on different days, and then all the same people are at the same meeting or at both meetings. So it's kind of like, why did we do that?
Great. So Kara, thanks for joining us today. We want to be respectful of your time. We know you are literally juggling things at the moment. Do we have any more questions for Kara?
I tell you, literally juggling. Literally.
Awesome.
So thank you
What
guys.
is
I appreciate the opportunity. Again, you have my email address and you have Deborah's contact information as well. And either of us are happy to share any of the information if you guys are interested in reading a little more in depth. So thank you.
Thank you, Kara, and appreciate your time and effort.
That was awesome. Thank you for putting that together for us. I do have one question. David, you mentioned, so the pilot in Acres Homes, that you said that the safe routes to school education, that the planning or the city side was responsible for the infrastructure. And I guess one thing that is really coming back again and again is that safe routes to school is not only about infrastructure, it's about a holistic approach to shifting lifestyles within children in schools. And so which piece was MD Anderson doing and which piece is the city doing?
So MD Anderson is just the funder for staff and material and resources. Harris County Health hired a Safe Routes coordinator using a chunk of that grant money. So they're going to be responsible for those, well, we call them programmatic elements. It's just, I don't know if that exactly covers everything, but that other side that you're imagining, and the city is responsible for matching it up with our Vision Zero work.
Gotcha.
And I did see a question in the chat from Lisa G. I think the slides from that session went out just today. Oh yeah, and here's Brendan. Yes, they were a part of the slides Brendan sent out today. If you don't have a copy, Brendan can send another one.
Well, hopefully, I think didn't Karis mention that she had the updated slides? So I think before we send out the I guess the broadcast or the meeting today, that Brandon can update with the newer slides so we can see the information that Kara intended to send.
Yes, that sounds good. I'll get with her today before the day is out, and I'll get those slides to you guys.
Cool deal. So with that, finalizing the number 4 item on our agenda, we have an open forum. Joe, are you online? I saw you jump back in.
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Cool deal. So, trying to go back with where we're talking about the Lisa Torrey Smith and brainstorming activity. We found out that you and Commander Anthony Miller were tag teaming to produce some social media content on Friday.
Hello, you still there?
Yeah, still here. Yeah, I just wanted to mention we came up. Commander Anthony mentioned that you guys were tag teaming for producing some social media content to cover the Lisa Torrey Smith Act and kind of like make an educational video about what recently happened and what updated the what legislation updated a loophole that was in crosswalk. I guess law stuff. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah. A video. Originally, we were scheduled to get together to film this week, but things have been delayed due to the officer who was shot and killed. Preparations for his services. So more to come on that. But yeah, we'll be teaming up. Bike Houston and HPD will be teaming up on some resources for to raise awareness for this new law.
Yes. So yeah, that's good to hear. It was really enlightening news, despite what happened. It's really unfortunate for sure. And Jessica did bring up the idea of like how the message is conveyed. And I think it's important to think about also, like, I agree that we want to educate people, drivers, pedestrians alike, about the law, but we don't want to, if I got it right, Jessica, it was like not really make them feel guilty about what the law is going to bring forward.
So I think my point, sorry, you were coming in and out, but I think my point is that we don't want to reinforce the message or reinforce the behavior that when someone hits someone on a bike or walking, that they abandon the scene. And I think there is some potential for that behavior to be encouraged with a message that reinforces that people are going to get in trouble. If that happens, I think people assume they get in trouble anyway. I think overall, for me, this sounds like a 3-foot safe passing campaign. I just want to be really aware and careful with that message that we're not exacerbating an issue.
There you go. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, I agree. I think the last thing we would want is for more people to leave the scene or for somebody to have a greater incentive to leave the scene. I think the message here is probably a lot more what it would be like even without this law having passed, which is that you have a duty to those around you when you're piloting a multi-ton motorized machine capable of upwards of 100 miles per hour. The duty and the responsibility that comes with driving a vehicle, and the fact that there are people on foot and people on bikes, and laws are intended to protect them, and it's up to all of us to keep an eye out for all of us who drive, to keep an eye out for people who are not in vehicles, especially.
I really like the messaging of drive with care.
Drive with care. That's good. Drive with care. Kind of like when the box is fragile, handle with care. Yeah, I like that. Drive with care. Yeah. What else can we talk about? That's what we had in the agenda. Yeah, these are two topics that I'm interested in. I'm glad these were selected. Finding routes to school. I know that when you brought that out, Robin, I was like a couple of years back ago with biking to school. I have an interest for that. So hopefully this thing works out really well with the Acres Homes and the MD Anderson funding it, and we can expand this quicker, a lot faster, ASAP.
Hey, if we're still an open forum, Lex, I just wanted to plug two things that Bike Houston is working on that are sort of in early phases right now. Many of you know that we've, for a long time, have offered learn to ride courses in which people who don't know how to ride a bike can get a lesson from a certified instructor. We're bringing that course back, I'm glad to say. Many of you know Tony Banks, who is a B-Cycle employee and for a long time has worked with Bike Houston on this. And Tony was caring for a sick parent, but now his dad's doing much better. So now Tony's freed up to work with us some more, which I'm just thrilled by. So he and I are going to be working at the logistics on that. We'll be offering the courses at in a parking garage at Rice University. And I'm just thrilled to say that that's coming back online this fall. One other thing that we're doing on the education front, we are working with some volunteers and board members to pilot a new program called Bike with Someone. We haven't formally announced this yet. Bike with Someone sounds like a bland name, but if you can imagine it in the style of the Be Someone Bridge, then it works a lot better that way. But Bike with Someone is sort of like a more advanced class. So imagine, if you already know how to ride a bike, but you're not confident riding on the streets of Houston, we can pair you up with somebody who can help you plan a route and help you ride from point A to point B, whether it's a commute trip or a trip to your local grocery store or what have you. So we're excited to bring these two new educational initiatives to the fore.
Bike with some. Those are really good ideas. I am trying to come up with events for the UHD Bike Club, and I got in contact with I guess the manager of the Leonel Castillo, the guy managing the building, I guess, with Harris County in Precinct 2. And I brought up the idea of biking events. So if you want to do a learning to ride event there, I know the weather is a lot nicer, as most of you have noticed already. For the fall, I can mention that to them, a learning to bike event. If you use, the parking lot in the back, I think it's ample space to kind of conduct a class like that, or a brief class. I think that's something that he'd be really open to looking into, because I did mention bike events. So I was just thinking destination rides, in the near north side or in the east end, depending, rider's capability. So there's I think that's for logistics, there's that avenue or that location that you can use, so we can conduct events and keeping the community engaged. Am I still cutting on and off? Or
Nope,
has
you're
the
good to go. Nope.
okay. Yeah, and then the Bike with Someone, I might copy that and use it too for UHD, because I want people to be comfortable riding, and most of these folks are first time riders. So
I would ask if you know anybody who would be interested in helping us pilot this. We have a handful of folks who have volunteered to sort of be our guinea pigs for this. If you know anyone who might be willing to help us out and refine it, you know where to find me.
Good deal. Yeah, I'll reach out to you later on. See where we can get to that with that. So, because technically I'm an LCI trainer too. I don't know how long my certification has before it expires, because I think it's for a year, right?
I'm not sure how it works, but we'd love to have you as a potential expert rider, given that you have certain expertise and certification to back it up. So, and that goes for anyone on the call and anyone who you might know. If this program takes off, we'll be in need of people who have particular expertise, and you don't have to be an LCI. It's great if you are, but if you have a particular knack for route planning and you feel comfortable teaching someone, the rules of the road, let's talk.
Let's. Anyone have any ideas or questions, suggestions about anything else? We do have 16 minutes until 4:30. I do believe that that's when the meeting concludes.
Mm-hmm. Nothing else? You want to move forward to announcements?
I guess so. If nobody brought anything. Yeah. Anyone have any announcements?
I'll start with the first announcements. The next meetings that we have here, you see on the screen. The BAC will be October 27th from 2:30 to 4:30. It will be in person and virtual. In person, it will be held in the City Council chambers and also on Microsoft Teams. The chair and staff will be required to be in person. The BAC members and the public have the option to join via Teams or be in person. The next meeting in line will be the Infrastructure Subcommittee will be November 17th, 2:30, 4:30. That will be held via Teams. All subcommittee meetings can still be held virtually. And then the next educational subcommittee meeting will be December 15th at 2:30, 4:30. Also, again, like I said, subcommittee meetings can be 100% virtual. But if necessary, we can reserve the space in the Bob Lanier Public Works building here in 611 Walker. If anybody has any other announcements?
I'll bring it up again. So I am, or the Northline community and Avenue CDC, we have a walkability audit training with AARP co-hosting. They'll be like leading, I guess they have like a way of conducting a walkability audit in your neighborhood. And I think we will be using it to submit to 311 and create reports to kind of improve areas in our neighborhood, or submit issues or concerns that we have in the area. I think it's a really good way to take advantage of the new 311 system, and make our city a better place to be in for pedestrians and road cyclists. I say road users or vulnerable road users, right? That's the theme of the meeting today. Anyone else? All right, so
all right,
we ended early today. It's 4:17. Thank you, everybody. I hope I did a good job. I think I did.
Great job.
Nobody complained, so that means, yeah, that was a good thing. All right, guys. So thank you all for coming out. I wish y'all a good day. Get on your bike. The weather is really nice today. Hopefully I'll see you out there.
All right. Guys, be safe.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.